at Brands Hatch. Rouse has taken pole position in the Kaliber Ford, ahead of the man who beat him at Thruxton. Rouse lapping in practice at over 100 miles an hour. A lot of wheel spin from Soper, and it's Rouse who gets ahead at Paddock. Up to Druids, first time. Rouse, Soper, then Carl Jones, then Sittner, who qualified an excellent fourth. Already, Rouse and Soper are setting off on what will be a private but very intense battle. Behind them, Mike Smith gives Graham Good a nudge. Off goes Good. But ahead, it's definitely Rouse versus Soper. We rejoin it, end of lap 2.
Here's Rouse and Soper going into Paddock Bend as they come out of the Brabham Straight. 110 miles an hour. Into the dip, up Halewood Rise. Into Druids at about 55 miles an hour, and look at the gap between them and the third place man. Down to Graham Hill Bend. Rouse leading as Soper's going through. Soper goes through into the lead. And Steve Soper beat Andy Rouse at Thruxton. Is he going to do it again? It's only the second time he's raced against him this year. Now in car with Andy Rouse. Soper's really tried. You see the way the rear end stepped out there. Now, Andy Rouse has got an experimental engine with higher turbo boost. It's giving him more power. He's going into Pilgrim's Drop at about 135 miles an hour, and he gets back into the lead. Into Hawthorne, onto Westfield. And this is 110 miles an hour. Rouse leading, Soper second. Dingledell again, 100 miles an hour. And at Stirling's, Rouse and Soper have got their windscreen wipers going. Look, it's starting to rain here at Brands Hatch, and that's really going to affect the surface. It's going to make it very slippery indeed. Hear the tyre squeal. Over the line again at the end of another lap. Rouse leading, Soper in second position. And now Rouse is catching Martin Ray's Honda Prelude. He's going to go absolutely smashing past it, and he does so. Out of Druids, 60 miles an hour. Soper's right behind. You can see that the course surface is wet. Graham Hill Bend, up to Surtees, 60 miles an hour. Soper's having a look. He's trying to go through on the inside. But he doesn't. And now on to Pilgrim's Drop, building up to 145 miles an hour as they approach Hawthorne's, the right-hander. Take that at about 120. Magnificently matched on performance, the drivers and the cars. You can see the rain coming down. To Westfield. To Dingledell. Onto the curve goes Rouse, right, left. Soper's having another look. Steve Soper's forcing Andy Rouse all the time. Andy Rouse has got to keep his cool, or Soper's going to be through and into the lead as they come through round Clearways, round Clark Curve to complete another lap. 130 miles an hour even in this weather, and the rain is absolutely belting down now as Soper tries to go through on the inside as they approach Paddock. With Andy Rouse, and he's got a clear track ahead of him. Absolutely ideal as he goes up Halewood Rise at about 120 miles an hour on his way to Druids. And Soper goes through on the inside. A brilliant bit of driving. Steve Soper takes the lead at Brands from Andy Rouse. Now, is Steve on his way? He's got to break away from Rouse, and Rouse has got more power. Remember, he goes back. Andy Rouse retakes the lead at Surtees. So Steve Soper was not in front for very long. Now it's Rouse leading, and that's Wilson, Rob Wilson, off at Dingledell. But looks perfectly all right. Rob Wilson in Graham Hathaway's Ford Sierra Cosworth. But under the bridge, into Clearways, towards the end of another lap, comes this titanic scrap for leadership. Don't forget forget that Andy Rouse is after his revenge. Steve Soper beat him at Thruxton. Andy Rouse means to win here. Into paddock again. And this is where Steve Soper went through earlier on the approach to Druids. He's not going to do it this time, though. Andy Rouse has got the line. Andy holds it. Round Druids at about 55 miles an hour. Accelerate up through the gears from second to third. 90 miles an hour. Into Graham Hill then. Now Soper's attacking again. He's on his way. Andy Rouse is drifting a bit wide as he goes into Surtees, and Soper goes through. Yes, no. Yes, Soper's in the lead for the second time. Andy Rouse runs wide onto the grass. Now, is that power going to pay off again? It looks like it. He's closing up. He's inching up on Soper. He goes past. Andy Rouse retakes the lead. And he has just created a new lap record at 99.7 miles an hour. So very close to the 100. He was over that in practice. But the conditions are a little worse today.
But behind all that, more excitement. Although Frank Sittner was comfortably ahead in Class B, Mike Smith, carrying the onboard camera and the onboard sound, was stuck behind Mike O'Brien.
This guy's beginning to be a real pain. He's making this thing so wide I can't get past him. This is Druids. He's so slow through the corners. I'll give him a touch. There we are. That's a love touch to remind him I'm here. I'm going to have a go. I've got to get past him. If he chops me this time, I'm off. Yay!
Nice one, Mike. Up to 9th position at Surtees. And that's Dennis Leach in the big Rover. He's about to be lapped by Soper there in second position and Rouse ahead of him. The big red and black 3.5 litre V8 Rover of Dennis Leach bounces over the curbs at Dingledell. And Andy Rouse goes through. And attached to his rear bumper, it's Steve Soper. And we're about to start the last lap. If Steve Soper has got anything in reserve, now is the time he has got to produce it, because they are coming out of Clark Curve, over the line, lap 20. This is the last lap, and Andy Rouse has got the lead, which he has had for most of the race, but he has lost it to Steve Soper. Steve Soper's dropping back a bit as they go up to Druids. These two are nearly half a minute ahead of Guy Edwards, who is in third position. Out of Druids, down to Graham Hill Bend. Surtees was where Soper took the lead before, and they're coming up to Surtees now. And Rouse is going wide. Soper's going through again. They're rubbing door handles. And Soper forces Rouse wide. But again, this is where the power of Andy Rouse's Ford Sierra Cosworth with its extra boost could count, and it does count. Andy Rouse retakes the lead halfway round the last lap. And surely he must keep it now. Lap record holder Andy Rouse, nearly 100 miles an hour. He's on his way to Dingledell. He's through Dingledell. He's into Stirling's. This is going to be, or is it? Look at the way Soper's pressing in the closing stages of the last lap. Is this going to be Andy Rouse's revenge for the victory that Soper had over him at Thruxton? It looks like it. They're coming up to the checkered flag. And yes, Andy Rouse wins and gets his revenge. And a jubilant Andy Rouse punches the air with joy. A marvellous win then for Andy Rouse, and a new lap record, with Steve Soper second, Guy Edwards third, Lawrence Bristow fourth, Jerry Marnie fifth, and Carl Jones sixth, all of them in the all-conquering Ford Sierra Cosworth RS 500.
But Frank Sittner, placed 7th overall, had once again won Class B with a record lap. So a 5-point gap over race winner Rouse, who produced perhaps the performance of the season to beat his old rival Steve Soper.
It's been an interesting challenge for sure, and one that we relish really, because the Eggenberger team are the official Ford factory-backed team. They're financed by Ford Motor Company, and they've got Ford engineers behind them. So, you know, a big challenge for us as a private team to race against the works team and beat them. Steve's raced mainly in Europe, whereas I've sort of concentrated on England a little bit. So we've not come together to race against each other very much, particularly in latter years. A little bit like Cram and Co. You know, they're never together at the same time. And so when we have raced against each other, of course, it's always been a good race because there's never very much to choose between the performance of Steve's car and mine, and you know, the driver ability is probably on pretty much of a level. So always guaranteed some fireworks when we get together.
And Andy Rouse, having driven a brilliantly controlled race, crosses the line in the Kaliber Racing